So, my wife asked me last night, at like 10:30, are you doing a Christmas lesson tomorrow? Because she likes the Christmas stuff at Christmas time. I don't know why she doesn't like it in July, but she only likes it at Christmas time. So I told her, it's a Christmas lesson, but it's not a Christmas lesson. And you'll have to roll with that and see where that goes and see how that falls in for you. Because when you think about Christmas, what book of the Bible do you think of? That's right, Revelation. Revelation chapter 20. And that's where we're going this morning. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 3 is what we're going to be looking at. Revelation 20, verses 1 through 3. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. All right, so in verse 2, who do we have here in verse 2? No, that name is not there. Try again. Right? We got the devil. We got what else? Satan. What else? Serpent. What else? There we go. We got all of them all in there, right? Serpent and dragon. Got a big descriptive pile, right? Okay. So we are familiar with the name Satan, right? Book of Job talks about Satan a lot. Jesus referred to Satan. Let's take a look. Matthew 16, verse 23. There goes a bookmark. Matthew 16, verse 23. Right? This is after Peter was talking to him, right? But Jesus turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. Now see, that's an interesting verse too, in and of itself, right? What is Satan's focus? Is it on the things of God? No, what's it on? Things of men, right? Right? And we have Jesus himself acknowledging that Satan exists. Interesting. All right. We're familiar with the term devil, right? The devil. All throughout the New Testament. Blah, blah, blah. Devil, 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 right? Okay. Serpent. Where does the serpent come into play? Genesis 3, right? In the fall of man. Very good. Genesis 3 starts off there in the fall of man. We want to take a look at the dragon for a second, right? Revelation chapter 12. Because that'll tie into today's lesson. So if you ever get tired of reading the Christmas story out of Matthew or Luke, you should take if you want an interesting twist, read Revelation 12 for the Christmas story once. There's some good stuff there. Revelation 12, verses 7 through 9. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. The great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. All right, so we have some similarities here between Revelation 12 and Revelation 20. What are those similarities? The names, right? We got the devil's repeated, Satan's repeated, the serpent, that old dragon, that's all in there, right? Okay, so do we know who we're talking about yet? Yeah, okay, good, great, wonderful. All right, and what do we know about him? What do we know about Satan, serpent, dragon, devil from both of these verses? From those verses. He was cast out, but that wasn't in the other verse. He's a deceiver, right? Verse 9, what does verse 9 tell us? Middle of verse 9, which deceiveth the whole world. right? He deceives. He deceives the whole world. If you go back to Revelation 20, right, in verse 3, right? Well, at the end of verse 2, Satan was bound, right, for 1,000 years. But why was Satan bound? What does it tell us in verse 3? So he can't deceive anymore, right? Verse 3, that he should deceive the nations no more. So what is the scope of his deceived clientele? Right? The whole world, right? All the nations. Deceives all nations and the whole world. Just in case you weren't clear, it's everything, right? Okay, very good. So, the question I want to ask you today is, at this time of year, how is the world being deceived? Right? At this time of year, how is the world being deceived? And in order to understand that, we got to take a look and understand, well, what does a deceiver do? What is something that a deceiver will do? Okay, twist the truth. Michael said something? Makes everything about him. Very good. Because, well, what's his focus? On the things of men, right? Well, what does the deceiver do? Gets your attention on things other than Christ? That would be lying, right? So they're lying. Well, one of the things I thought of is that they pretend to be something they're not. Right? We've all seen movies about people who like pretend to be doctors, but they're not really doctors. Or the pretend to be a policeman and they come up to you and they're not policemen. Right? We've seen those types of things before, right? Well, what is that person doing? They're deceiving. What are they? They're an imposter. Right? Okay. So Isaiah, let's take a look at Isaiah. And that's where the focus of our lesson is going today, is on the deception that's there. Isaiah 14, verses 12 through 14. Isaiah 14, 12 through 14 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." All right, so there's an interesting two-word combination in those three verses. Well, that is an interesting, right? That's not the one I was looking for. Be like. Right? Way to make that transition, Chuck. What does it mean to be like? What does it mean to be like something? You guys are all old enough. How many of you remember the Gatorade commercials? You want to be like Mike? Nobody remembers that? Come on, Katie. That's before Katie's time. Clint, you remember? All right, good. I got one. One dude remembers. Be like Mike. Michael Jordan, right? That's who the ads were for. And you wanted to be like Michael Jordan. And everybody just, when they're playing basketball, does what, Clint? When they're going to make that move, what do? They stick out the tongue, right? Because they got to be like Mike, right? You can't fly, so that's all you got is you got to stick out the tongue. Right. All right, so I'm in the wrong generation for this class. I had the same problem in the teen class. They'd look at me like, who? Don't know who you're talking about. That's rough. All right. Well, when you are like something, are you the thing? No. Just because I stick out my tongue, do I turn to a 6'6" black guy? No, unfortunately, I don't. I still can't dunk, right? So that's the problem I'm stuck with. I'm still me. I can pretend. I can put on the jersey. I could wear the shoes. Still don't have the hops, right? That's the way it works. I can be like, but I am not the original. All right, so if we take a look at Isaiah 14:12, where it talks about Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, and then how he is fallen from heaven, right? Now, we don't have the name Satan, serpent, devil, dragon in that verse, right? But we understand who we're talking about. And we understand that if we go back to Luke chapter 10, Matthew, Mark, Luke 10 verse 18, Jesus himself ties Isaiah together with Revelation. Luke chapter 10 verse 18 says, and this is Jesus speaking, and he, Jesus, said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Right? So who fell from heaven in Isaiah? Right? Satan, Lucifer. It's the same entity that's there. Jesus ties that together in Luke. And who are we talking about in Revelation as the great deceiver? Satan. All right, very good. All right, so now we know who we're talking about, right? So if we look at Isaiah 14:13, right? If one were to impersonate God, where would he need to live? If one were to impersonate God, where would he need to live? What do the verses say? Right? In the north, right? Very good. Verse 13, end of verse 13 says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Right? So where are we? We're in the North Pole there. So what character do you know of that lives in the north? All right, very good, right? Has anyone seen this imposter? No. Right? Well, you got movies, right? But no one has actually seen this imposter. Take a look at John 1:18. Why do you suppose it is that nobody has seen this imposter? John 1:18. John 1:18 tells us, no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, hath declared him. Right? So Jesus declares the Father, but no man hath seen him. So if I'm going to impersonate God, what do I need to do? Not be seen. Right? Interesting. If nobody has seen him, how is it that we seem to understand what he looks like? Right? If I were to ask you to describe this imposter to me, what would you tell me as his defining characteristics? Fat, wears red, what else? White hair. Why does he have white hair? Very good. Revelation chapter 1. Revelation chapter 1, verses 10 through 14. Revelation chapter 1, verses 10 through 14. This is John speaking at this point. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice, as of a trumpet, saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And what thou seest write in a book, and send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and to Smyrna, and to Pergamos, and to Thyatira, and to Sardis, and to Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were, what color? White, like wool, and white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. So I want you to think about, if you were to choose a hair color, what would it be? If I'm going to base my character, make up this character, right? I'm going to make something up. I'm going to pick white immediately comes to mind, right? Why is that? Right? So there are, and we've gone through this before, I think in this class, the number of prophecies that go into the birth of, just the birth of Jesus Christ, right? And how one thing might be a coincidence, right? But when you take the whole bulk of everything together, there's no way it can be a coincidence. Similar thing is going on here, right? Okay, so this made-up fictional character happens to have white hair. So what? Okay? We mentioned that, I think it was Chuck, that he has a red suit, right? Okay? How do we know that? Why do we know that? Why a red suit? So if I was going to pick a suit, I don't think it'd be white or red. Kind of flashy. Don't get it, right? Why pick red? Revelation chapter 19. Revelation chapter 19, verses 11 through 13. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. All right, so who are we talking about here? Jesus Christ, right? You can tie all that stuff back together in with John 1, right? We're talking about Jesus Christ. And he's wearing a vesture, right? And what's the characteristic behind this vesture? Dipped in blood, right? Okay, and what color is blood? Red. So what's he wearing? A red garment, right? A red coat, however you want to describe it, red vesture, right? Huh. So why do these two match? Right? Think about that. How, in this section of verses here, how is Jesus traveling? On a horse. On a white horse, right? And now I'm making a little bit of a conjecture here, but I'm pretty sure there are no roads from heaven to here. So how does this horse get from heaven to here? Right? Got to assume he's flying, right? Well, what mode of transportation does our imposter use? Right? Reindeer, flying, right? Interesting. Okay. Back to Isaiah 14. Talk about the flying there for a second. Isaiah 14:14 tells us, this is the verses that we read about Lucifer, the 5 I wills that are there. In verse 14 it says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. Right? So where do flying reindeer travel, apparently? Right? Above the clouds. Right? Why? Because, well, nobody can see you. Right? There's also an interesting tie in there to when Christ returns, come in the clouds, right? Who are we looking for? Who are kids looking for on Christmas Day? And where are they looking? Where are we supposed to be looking, / where were the disciples looking when Jesus ascended? Huh, interesting. Just happens to be a coincidence, I'm sure, right? Matthew 24, verse 30. Matthew 24, verse 30 ties that in. This is Jesus speaking. And then, Matthew 24:30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Mark chapter 13, verse 26 gives us a similar verse. Mark chapter 13, verse 26. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. So one has power and great glory, and one has great power and great glory. One other has great power and glory. Right? So if you combine it all together, there's a lot of great power and great glory happening. Just so you know. Right? But that's what we're supposed to be looking for. But what is Satan looking for? Right? Focusing on the things of men, right? Very good. So our white-haired, red-clothed, flying animal imposter, what does he bring with him? Right? He brings gifts. James chapter 1. It's Philemon, Hebrews, James chapter 1. James chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. James chapter 1, verses 16 and 17 says, "Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning." Right? So, verse 16 is an interesting statement there. What is verse 16 telling us? Don't be deceived. What'd you say? Don't get mixed up. Don't err. What does err mean? Right? Right? Make a mistake, an error. Right? Don't be confused. Where do gifts come from? Yeah. Right? Very good. They come from God. Comes from where? Above. From whom? The Father. Right? What helps our imposter make his gifts? Right? Elves. Okay? You could just go from there, right? Okay? Elves. So, elves are associated with magic. Okay? And they are described as being supernatural beings known for being mischievous and causing trouble for humans. Think about that description. If I was just to give you that definition, supernatural being known for being mischievous and causing trouble for humans, and I asked you to assign that definition to a word, what word would that be? Okay? What else? Demons. Wow. 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 Think about that for a second. Think about why you know all this information. Right? Because you've never been to the North Pole? No. All right, fine. Seen our imposter? No. But yet you can describe him. Seen his helpers? But you can describe them. Why do we know all this information? All right, you're going to have to hang on to that thought. All right? Think about this. What? Well, we do have the Bible. Very good. The Bible tells us this information about Christ and about God. Right? Okay? How does our imposter know who to give these gifts to? Right? He has a list. Oh, and he checks it twice. Right? Okay. We're going to have to remember that point because that's interesting. Hang on. Let me make a note. Remind me to come back to that, Chuck. All right? So he has a list. And what's on this list? Names of good and bad, naughty and nice, right? That was you, Sarah, that said that, right? So he knows who's naughty and nice. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20, verse 11 through 15. Revelation 20, verse 11 through 15. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So why do we have a list listing who's naughty and nice? Because God has one, right? Okay. What's interesting there is in verse 15. Where's verse 15? And whosoever was not found written in the book of life, right? What happens when you're naughty? What do you get? Coal, a lump of coal, right? So what happens at the end of Revelation 20 here? Right? You get put in a lake of fire, right? What's in a lake of fire? Fire, brimstone, coal, hello, right? Interesting. Okay? What characteristic of God is our imposter pretending to have here? Omniscience, right? Because he knows who's naughty and nice, right? Right? Well, we'll get there in a second, Peter. Thanks. Right? He knows who's naughty and nice. But what's interesting is that our imposter starts to crack a little bit. Right? Because what does he do with this list? Checks it twice. Why? Just in case he made a mistake, Rose says. Right? Darlene says because he doesn't know, right? So he's pretending to have this characteristic of God, which is omniscience, but yet he has to check twice so he doesn't make a mistake. Interesting. Do we have that problem with our God? No. Because he actually is omniscient. He does know everything, right? He doesn't have to check it twice. He sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. What characteristic of God is our imposter pretending to have here? Omnipresence, right? Because how is he going to know? How creepy is this? How does he know when you're sleeping? How do your parents know when you're sleeping? They check on you. Ooh, I don't know that I like that in my Christmas character guy here, right? He's checking on you, right? Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. Now, this is an interesting verse. This is an interesting verse, right? Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Okay, so if our character is pretending to be omnipresent, but God actually is, and what is he telling you there? What does he tell you in 13:5? I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Right? You don't need anything but me. Okay, but it's interesting that, okay, if we're tying this in with Christmas and what Satan pretends to do, but what God actually does, how does this verse start off? Be content with what you have. Covetousness, right? Let your conversation be without covetousness. What's happening right now? Well, probably not right now, but in all the schools, As kids gather, what are they asking? What are you going to get? What are you going to get? What are you going to get? What do you want? What are you going to get? And what happens when they come back from Christmas break? What'd you get? Where's the focus? Right? So on covetousness, right? Because what are those kids going to do when you hear your friend got, ooh, and you got, oh, right? At least in comparison, right? What's the kid going to do then? Get jealous? What else? Be discontented with what they got, even though it's exactly what they asked for. What else? Complain to their parents? They want that. Interesting twist. What about lying about what you got? Well, they got one big thing. Well, I got two good things. Well, I got this, even though you didn't get it. Kind of pad your stats a little bit. You know? Your grandma gave you $5. My grandma gave me $50. Right? It's a zero. It doesn't count. Right? Okay, so what just happened? Not only do we have covetousness, and we now have jealousy, we have lying. What else did we have in there? Envy, right? Okay, Yoli wants some of that. What do you want, Yoli? Ungrateful, right? Yeah. Got division now. Oh, okay. Those all sound like good things. Right? Not at our house, certainly. Right? That's not good things. Okay. Why do they call it the Christmas spirit? Well, I don't know. We seem to have a lot of division, envy, and strife. So maybe it's just the all year round spirit, right? That Satan's trying to help us with there, right? So there are lots of tie-ins, right? And you're thinking, really? You're overreacting, right? It's a harmless Christmas tradition. It's fun, right? It's for the kids. If that were true, why do we need to lie about it? Right? Why do people feel the need to lie to their children to perpetuate the existence of our imposter? Right? And will go out of their way to do so. Think about that. How many of you would like being lied to? None of you? Why not? You like to be able to trust the people around you, right? Typically, right? So why would you build that into your relationship with your kid when they're little? Because what happens when they actually find out the truth? Right? They're mad at you. Right? Why would my parent not tell me what I need to know? Donna, and then we'll get Dave. Sure. Right? Well, now I can't trust anything you say. Right, Dave? Okay. Why? Right? Why? Why do you get flack for not believing in a pretend character? Right. Exactly. Think about that. He's taking flack, and I'm sure others have as well, for not believing in a fake character. That's like the argument, who's better, Batman or Superman? Right? Which is a whole other conversation, much like this one. Right? Sure. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Right? Chapter 2, 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. Very much vain deceit. After the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So what is all this? What is our imposter all about? Right? Very good. It is. Right? But a lot of times we don't get it. Right? So much like our example with being like Mike, right? Is an imposter as good as the original? Is a knockoff as good as the original? No. We know that. We got purses and bags and shoes and drugs, and we all know that none of the stuff is as good as the original, right? Think about the story of the little kid who gets separated from his parents, and he freaks out for a second, and then he sees his parent and grabs their hand or grabs their leg, depending on how tall they are, right? And then there's that momentary reaction when the person looks down and goes, whose kid is this? And the kid looks up and goes, not my parent. Right? Why did they make that mistake in the first place? Okay, they weren't looking carefully. Stephanie? Something they couldn't find? Somebody said something. They fit the image, right? From behind it looked like same color pants, same color skirt, same, it looks like, but what didn't they do? They didn't look up. Ooh, think about that. Not that they weren't looking, but where weren't they looking? Up. Where do we need to look? Stephanie? Our imposter, yes. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You don't understand. When you start lying to your kids, I mean, a lot of you are past that point, but when you start lying to somebody, how does that relationship grow? Is that good? Right? You just set that off on a bad trajectory, right? Okay? Think about why. What if? Oh. Think about who Satan is and what's happening. Okay? Why is this so important to Satan? Because think about how closely our imposter's character represents things in the Bible attributed to Christ and to God. Why have it matched so closely? It's easier to deceive, right? Wants to be like the Most High. Think about how important this is to Satan. Dave. Yep. Right. So what does Satan know that we don't know? Well, we as Christians should know, right? But what does Satan know that he doesn't want the rest of the world to know? The end is coming. Think about how much of the examples that were given were prophecies in Isaiah and Revelation, right? Descriptions in Revelation, stuff to come. So what does Satan know? Satan knows God's word. He knows his time is short. So what is he doing? Deceiving, right? Right? As many people as he can. So think about that. 1 Peter 5:8. It puts a new twist on 1 Peter 5:8. I missed something. Interesting, even in verse 7, time back to verse 7, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. So what do the little kids do when they stand in line for hours at the mall? And when they finally get a chance to talk with our imposter, an imposter's imposter at that, right? What do they tell him? What they want. Ooh, where are we supposed to cast all our care? Ooh, interesting. Be sober. Be vigilant, verse 8 says, because your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walketh about seeking whom he may devour, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. But the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Right? Why are we supposed to be sober? Why are we supposed to be vigilant? Why are we supposed to resist? Chuck. Yeah, checking it twice. Yep, that was the point in the fake omniscience that was there. Thanks. Right? Why are we supposed to be so sober? Because of this. Right? And it's not a little thing. I don't know how I can accurately convey to you how seriously Satan takes this. This is a huge plan of Satan. This is a huge plan of Satan to distract. No, it's like Dave said, it's not Christ's birth. That's a ridiculous story. Santa's real. Wait, what? And Mark snorts. And for good reason. Because it's a ridiculous statement. Right? Think about how, what you want, Paul? Go ahead. Yep. 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 Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, if you ever look at the European stories of our imposter, they are creepy, right? So like Paul was saying, there's those, Satan, even in the fakeness, he reveals who he is and knows he's not God, much like our list where he has to check it twice because he's not omniscient. He's not omnipresent, right? So that whole thing there. But at the end of verse 10 there, what does Jesus Christ do? Establish, strengthen, settle you when our focus is on him, right? And that's the focus for today. And we are out of time, Michael. I told Michael there's no time. I can't get you. All right, go ahead, Yola. Yeah. Go ahead. Huh. And what does he take? He takes my cookies. What's also interesting is, okay, right? He's omniscient, omnipresent, whatever, right? But dude can't see where he's going through the fog. He needs a reindeer with a glow-in-the-dark nose. Just saying. All right, well, with that, though, we'll conclude our epic adventure through God's Word today. Y'all are dismissed.